Well, thank you so much for the invitation to the from the organizers and from Annie in particular. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to learn a lot about Scotland, land reform and land context. And I'd like to raise four main issues regarding SAFERs. But first of all, I realized that the French context is maybe exotic in comparison with Scotland. So I just wanted to put some data clear. In France, actually, the people who have the say in farmland management are not the owners. The farmers have the say because of the fermage tendency, which Kirsten mentioned. The fermage tendency is automatically renewable, automatically transferable within the family. It means when you are an owner, when you gave in the 1960s or in the 1950s a fermage lease to a farmer, it may be that you never had a say about your plot, your parcel, since the 1950s, if the plot is farmed within the same family. So farmers have the say in farmland management, and in farmland market management, who has the say? The farmers' unions. We will see it just after. And 2/3 of farmland are rent by farmers. Who are the owners in France? The ideal type are old men from the farming sector and from the same province. And the mean estate is 6 hectares. It means that one farm in France has to deal with 10 owners. There is no this relationship of one landlord being the only owner of one farm. The farm, if an owner says, oh, I'm taking my land back because my son wants to farm it, it's not a problem. It's only a couple of hectares which are lost by the farmers, and it doesn't have the same impacts. The data about ownership of land, I realized it's a kind of an issue here. In France, it is an open access, but only for non-individual owners. And about the farmland market, farmland is really cheap in comparison with the Netherlands. It's about 6,000 euros per hectare. And every year, 1.5% of farmland is sold. The main purchasers are farmers because they have a preemption right on the land they rent. And the second main purchasers are the SAFER. So we are talking today of the main organization, the main non-individual purchaser of land in France. The 4 ideas I'd like to speak about are the fact that SAFERs are mostly locally led. It means that their agency depends a lot of their power relationships within each province. Second, the SAFERs carry out short-term activities. They acquire land, they sell land, but also long-term activities. They act as land bank, so to say, for the state. They also produce data on the land markets, both continuously, not at the same path that in the Netherlands. It's not every 3 months, it's every year, but also for more precise surveys. And recently, the SAFERs experienced the most important extension of their prerogatives since the 1960s, and it created a lot of debates about which land regulation we want for France, for which French agriculture, and are the SAFER the best fitted organization to regulate land markets. So the first idea is that they are mostly locally led. Actually, at the beginning, as Kirsten said, SAFERs were a tool for the farmers to govern farmland markets, but for the use of farmers. It was a governance by the peers. I'm taking the expression of a French sociologist. And over the years, over the decades, it became a governance of rural land, not only farmland, but also forestry, natural land, and all that kind of rural lands. And the fact is that not only farmers are deciding now within SAFER committees, but also representatives of the local authorities, representatives of environmental NGOs, and other people who are professionally concerned by land. The fact is also that SAFERs were not the state, as Kirsten said, but at the beginning, in the 1960s, they received a lot of public funding to do their job. But over time, the state said, wow, you're private societies, I gave you this very important right to preempt land, but you should find your funding elsewhere. So there is a kind of contradictory injunction to SAFERs, because how do they get money? They get money when they sell land. A little percent of the price of land is like a commission for SAFERs. So in their interest, it is to sell countryside houses, which are with higher prices, to get higher commissions, to be able to acquire and sell farmland, which don't, with farmland selling, SAFER don't earn a lot of money. So they have to find other ways to earn money. The other thing is that as SAFERs are within their committees gathering representatives of farmers' unions, local authorities, environmental NGOs, and other stakeholders, they act as intermediaries between the sectors. And over the last decades, they tend to legitimize the role of local authorities to be actors in the land markets, and they also legitimize alternative land trusts. The most renowned land trust in France is Terre de Liens, Land of Links. But the majority farmers union, the FNSEA, is still quite pivotal in the internal governance of SAFER, and this sparkles the controversies Kirsten spoke about. This means also that SAFERs are less linked to farm agriculture, to those farmers who became really big farmers and who are not involved in the union. They don't see the interest of doing something for the common good, so they are not involved in the farmers' unions. And SAFER are quite not linked to the leftist farmers' union, the Confédération Paysanne. That's why it's difficult to assess the neutrality of SAFERs. You spoke about, are SAFER in really acting for the common good or not? It happens that the rules are circumvented by the representatives of the majority farmers' unions, the FNSEA, if they are sufficiently powerful in the province to control the technical committee. In other provinces, local authorities and NGOs are strong enough to resist to the pressure of the majority farmer union to allocate land to the biggest farmers, to their friends, and so on. What is crucial is actually the control of information within the land markets and the way in which in each province of if SAFER are really transmitting the information to all farmer unions or only to FNSEA, the majority farmers union. This means there is a lot of regional differences, as Kirsten said. First of all, the share of rented land. If most of the farmers transfer their holdings without selling the land, but just transferring the leases, SAFER cannot do anything. They can preempt land when it's sold, but when a lease is just transferred from one tenant to another tenant, SAFER has no say. In the north of France, this is the situation, and SAFER cannot do anything because the market is so closed. Maybe 0.5% of land is sold every year. Also, the share of corporate farms is important. Until 2023, SAFER couldn't preempt the sale of share capitals of companies owning farmland. I mean, if I'm selling to you my share capitals of my company owning 200 hectares of farmland, I'm selling you farmland. But legally, SAFER couldn't preempt it. So in the north of France, where corporate farms were the majority, SAFER couldn't do anything. Again, the degree of competition is also important because, as I said, tenant farmers have a preemption rights on the land they rent. So if we are in a region with a lot of tenant farmers, usually SAFER won't be able to preempt because farmers have a most powerful preemption right. So there is a lot of types of relationship with farmers and sizes of the reachable market for SAFER. And actually, in the regions of the south of France, where the farm structure are similar to the farm structure of the 1960s, SAFERs are more powerful than in the north of France. Well, the second point is about what kind of activities SAFER are doing on the land markets. The most common activity is purchasing and selling land. SAFER have a preemption rights, but it is only used in 10% of operation. In the rest of the operation, it's just that farmers or owners fear that SAFER activate the preemption right, and they prefer to negotiate with SAFER. After that, a call of application is open for 2 weeks. 2 weeks is so quick. If you're an aspiring farmer, you want to settle a farm, 2 weeks is really too quick for you. So this call for application is usually more for people who are already farming because they are more reactive. If there is competing application, usually at the scale of the municipality, there is an advisory local committee with the mayor, the representatives of the farmers' unions who examine the applications. After that, the provincial technical committee gives an opinion. It is sometimes compared to a parliament of farmland because you have all interested groupings who send representatives to the technical committee. And then the regional board takes the final decision. So there is a lot of people taking the decisions for SAFER. Actually, nationwide, 4,500 people every year participate to all these committees. And after that, the decision has to be approved by the representatives of the ministries of Agriculture and Finance. The idea is that it shouldn't be the farmland market shouldn't be opaque. It should be the decisions should be shared. So every year, nearly 100,000 hectares are sold by SAFERs. The mean operation is really tiny compared with Scotland's standards, only 7 hectares. And SAFER can sell to multiple buyers. I heard that the new law in Scotland, it's a big innovation that you can lot the estates. SAFER are doing this since the 1960s, and it doesn't matter for everyone. It's okay. If there is a lot of 7 hectares, it can be allocated to 8 people. Why not? The idea is just there are competing projects. Mr. A wants to do cattle farming. Mr. B wants to establish a vineyard. Mr. C wants just to extend his garden of his secondary home. Okay, the technical committee is looking. Oh, the cattle farmer, he's already very, very big. And the vineyard, oh, he wants to settle a new farm business. This is the priority. And so on. And just to say, every year, nearly 400,000 people send application to SAFERs. It means for one operation, you have in mean 27 people competing. And the SAFER officers usually say as a joke, well, there is always 100 displeased people and 1 ungrateful person. So within the last 10 years, SAFER have carried out operation in 80% of our municipalities. We can see that in some regions, SAFER tend to have most frequently operations. And as I said, in north of France, in the Picardy, SAFER is quite invisible. In the land aussi, but because it's the biggest forest in Europe. And what about long term? SAFER also act on the longer term, acting as land bank. For instance, in 2023, they had, nearly 40,000 hectares of land which were banked. And in the majority, it's on the behalf of public organization. For instance, the biggest land banked by the SAFER nowadays is for the construction of the Nord Europe Canal, a canal connecting Paris to Brussels. For decades, the state asked the SAFER to buy progressively land in the region to be able to build the canal, but also to be able to compensate the farmers who would lose land because of the construction of the canal. And during all the decades, SAFER are leasing the land with 1 year tenancy leases to be able to construct the canal the year it will be constructed. There are also more local partnerships, for instance, for water quality protection in the east of France to protect the quality of the Nestlé Waters sources. SAFER bought more than 3,000 hectares of farmland and to be able to force the farmers to convert to organic agriculture or to have more environmental practices. The third point is that SAFER produces data. Every year, we can look at the L'essentiel des marchés fonciers ruraux, which is a book of nearly 70 pages, with all the mean prices of land in all in a plenty of little regions of France. You can also go to the website Le Prix des Terres, the prices of lands, and select one of the 36,000 French municipalities to know about the mean prices, the evolution of the price, and how many plots of land were sold over the last year. SAFERs use all this data to issue a lot of reports, but they also develop knowledge tools. For instance, the SAFER of the south of France developed automated mapping of abandoned farmland to help the local authorities to be able to help farmers find plots to establish a farm. They also try to attract public attention on tendencies of the market. For instance, last year, for the first time, they mapped the farmland surfaces which were diverted from farm uses to go to recreative use. So they invent, they create data every year. And the last point is the fact, as I said, that the French regulatory framework, as coined by Castine, has 3 legs. The first was the fermage tenancy status, very profitable to the tenants. The second was SAFER. And the third was the fact that when you want to lease a land as a farmer, you also have to apply for an authorization by the state. And the idea is the same than SAFER, but not for the farmland market of ownership, but the market of lease, or I don't know how to say. And the idea is that within 2 months, every other farmer can say, oh, I'm also interested by the plot you would like to lease. And the state committee just look at who is the more priority to lease the land. But actually, farmland markets evolved a lot since the 1960s. I spoke about share capital. There is also subcontracting of farm. And all these markets were not regulated. This is so I just let you read, and oh, okay, so rapid. And in the over the last decade, there were a lot of debates about, oh, it's not fair that corporate farm structure can circumvent SAFER permitting rights. And at the end, in 2023, a new law, nicknamed the Sempastus law, creates a control of the market of share of companies owning land. And as the state considered it had no human resources to do it, the state delegated the control to SAFER, saying, okay, you exist, it's good. We don't fund you, but you will do the control over this new market, you're good at it. And actually, it was urgent because more farmland was sold through company share capital than as a plot. The rural lawyers, the real estate professionals contested the fact that SAFER had new prerogatives, saying that it would become too powerful. And the other main line of debate is the fact that many people say, wow, this farmland regulation is very ambitious, but quite splitted. There's the SAFER, the CDOI, the tenant court, and it will be a good idea to merge everything to do a unified land agency. Well, I've spoken maybe too much. I just want you to know that SAFER are a tool, a national tool, but the implementation is local, so it depends on power relationship in every province. And in France, we have 3 farmers' unions which are really in opposition and which can coin different policies. The second point is that SAFER acts on the short term, but also on the long term. The third point is that they produce a lot of data which help us to know how land markets are evolving every year. And the first point is that SAFER are more powerful since 2023, but also more contested. And maybe if I come back in Scotland in 10 years, we will have a completely different regulatory framework in France. And last idea, we are very ambitious in France. As Tocqueville says, we have draconian laws, but sometimes we are not applying them.